So, Britt, what exactly are you hearing now from Israeli officials there about a potential response as the war cabinet continues to meet?
Yeah, Kira, so we do know that Prime Minister Netanyahu is convening this war cabinet right now to discuss Israel's response. Some urging Netanyahu not to respond immediately, some on the far right saying that there should be some kind of major military response. It's just not clear at this point where Netanyahu stands, but any Israeli response could trigger another round of attacks from Iran, and that's the fear. Tehran has made that very clear, and the danger of escalation and an all-out war then becomes very real. Now, just a little earlier, I spoke to an IDF spokesperson, Peter Lerner, and I asked him about this potential for a response. He said that's up to the political echelon, but that they need to weigh up stability against a forceful kind of response. He also said that last night was testament to Israel's capabilities to defend itself. Let's take a listen. Were you surprised by last night's attack?
No, we had been planning for it. We realized that Iran was up to no good once more. And together with our allies, we created a plan of action, a unified operational plan to respond to Iran's aggression.
But were you surprised by the scale of it?
I think that we had a good intelligence, we had a good operational plan, we had good forces prepared and poised on the ground and in the air. And we had an alliance that came together around this incident with a very, very strong message to Iran. You can't get away with this. So I think it's not a question of surprise on what they gave out, it's how we responded to it. And I think coming together in such a very, very strong way, under the umbrella of the United States Central Command, together with the British, together with the French, and the regional players, sent a very, very clear message to Iran that you can't get away with it. We will work together to save lives.
I mean, political-wise, we've seen some cracks in the U.S.-Israel relationship. Do you think last night was kind of a turn, it took another positive turn?
The military to military has been tight, has been airtight. The relationship is very, very professional, eye to eye, and that is exactly what we fulfilled yesterday. General Kurilla left yesterday morning before everything happened, the commander of the United States Central Command, and we had an operational plan very well ironed out in order to address the impending attack, understanding exactly what they were planning to do, what Iran was planning to do, with 300 missiles, guided missiles, ballistic missiles, explosive drones, 170 explosive drones. None of them made it to Israel's airspace because we intercepted them beforehand, because our allies intercepted some of them. So it was a very, very close-knit, very densely aerial airspace.
Could you give a breakdown of how many drones or missiles were shot down by Israel forces versus the U.S.?
We're still looking into it. We're still in the aftermath of that. The after-action review is very complicated because there were so many actors intercepting so many different types of weapons as they were being dished out. What we know currently is that 170 explosive drones made their way to Israel. None of them made it into Israel's airspace. They were shot down beforehand. Around 30 cruise missiles that made their way from Iran, from Iraq, from Yemen. None of them made it to Israel. They were all shot down before they made it into Israel, Israeli airspace. And the ballistic missiles that came across, some of them, around 7 actually made it to Israel and impacted and caused limited damage, but they were mostly intercepted as well, around 120. Each ballistic missile has a warhead of around 100 to 120 kilograms of explosives. That's how much damage Iran wanted to deal out on Israel.
Does it tell you much about Iran's capabilities?
So I don't want to be too hyperbolic about it. I think we need to be both modest but realistic. They have lots of weapons. They have lots of capabilities. But they were shown in a very, very clear way that against this alliance, against this unity of decent nations, that their diabolical plans can't be realized.
And could you just give a bit more detail about that one base hit? What do we know?
The Nevatim Air Base is a base down south. A lot of operations are conducted from there, specifically during the war against Hezbollah, against Hamas. What we saw is a handful of ballistic missiles that hit the air base. They didn't cause much damage, minimal damage. The base was operational throughout, so it didn't stop the operations at all. And as the forces returned from defending the skies of Israel, they landed in Nevatim Air Base. So there was really not much to tell about.
Do you have any updates on that one girl who was critically injured?
From what I understand, she's still fighting for her life. She's still in serious condition, not out of danger. It's a tragedy.
Despite the size of this, it was rather slow-moving. We knew it was coming. What's your take on that? Was this just a theatre?
I think it's a war. I think...
But could they have not done more if they were serious about hurting Israel and attacking Israel? They hit a military base. They gave enough warning.
120 ballistic missiles. Each of them has 100 or so kilos warhead. Is not a symbolic strike. It's a substantial strike. We can't take that lightly.
So
just because we were successful in intercepting, we shouldn't underestimate what Iran did.
So how do you calculate a response?
The government is currently reviewing the options. They're on the table. The IDF has presented, obviously, what it believes could be done. The government will make its decision, and the IDF will implement what they believe is the right thing to do in order to achieve a strategy. What is ultimately the most important thing is that we restore safety and security to the people of Israel.
Safety and security to the people of Israel, though it's not clear what exactly that means in terms of an Israeli response. What he made it very clear is that this shows that we know how to handle this kind of attack, and he also was very keen to project this united front with the United States. Kira?
All right, Britt Clinton there for us in Tel Aviv. Britt, really appreciate that, in addition to a fresh interview from the IDF perspective.